This is a demonstration movie about determining the melting point of a substance. In this case we have isolated piperine, and that's in this little vial. And we also have a reference piperine. We're going to fill two melting point tubes, insert them in the melting point apparatus, and then we can simultaneously determine the melting point of our isolated product and the reference. We start by pushing the on-off button, and then we can the expected melting point is about 128 degrees, so we put set the temperature at about 110 degrees, but it's always good to watch the thermometer. While the apparatus is warming up, we are going to fill a melting point tube. You can find them in the apparatus. Please put them back. We're going to enter some of our isolated piperine in the melting point tube. So what we do is we insert the tube into the our vial, and at the top of the melting point tube you can see some of our piperine, and by ticking or let it fall from a significant height, in this case a condenser tube, it's possible to get all the piperine at the bottom of the melting point tube. That's now the case. You can see that all the piperine is at the bottom. We had already filled another tube with a reference piperine, and now we're going to insert both tubes into the melting point apparatus. But of course we also checked beforehand that the oil is not warmer than the expected melting point of our substance, in this case 128 degrees. Then when the thermometer reads about 120 degrees, we can warm by about 1 degree per minute by slowly increasing the temperature, and meanwhile watching the thermometer. And you can see both melting point tubes inserted well in the oil, and by watching them you can see when both of them melt. Preferably they should melt at the same temperature. The temperature has now increased to about 125 degrees, and here you can see both tubes. It seems like the left tube is now going to melt, so it's our isolated product, so it seems a little bit less pure than the reference tube, which you can see on the right. Temperature has now increased to about 128, so the reference tube, reference piperine, should also start to melt. If the oil heats up too quickly, then you should lower the temperature on the... Now you can see the reference piperine melting. Now it's gone. The temperature has now increased to about 129, 130 degrees. So I think in retrospect the temperature was a little bit too high, and it would have been better to set it at a little bit lower. If you fail in the first, you can take two new tubes and redo it at a more leisurely pace. When you have finished determining the melting point, it's possible to rapidly cool the oil by pushing the button, and a ventilator starts to actively cool the oil. And it also, of course, you should turn the temperature to 0. When it has reached about 110 degrees and you have your new melting point tubes ready, you can reinsert them. You can discard the old ones in the glass waste. box and determine another melting point.